And we're back for, I've forgotten what part this is, but this is the final part. So is there anything else that you would like to share with everybody, Joanne? Anything else about your journey, or that you think that the Australian public need to know about what is actually going on the other side of the story, and why enough really is enough?
Yeah, I think the other thing is we never know each other's story as RTOs. One of the problems can be that we as RTOs can be a little bit spiteful in our own backyard. We need to actually be united in not actually jumping to conclusions about other RTOs, and work and maybe actually put our hand up and say, look, do you want a hand? And if they take it, if they want to be helped, then be there for them, even if it's just to say, how you going, mate? Because when you're going through these procedures, especially through the AAT and the drag out, it can be lonely. It can be a very lonely process, and sometimes just putting your hand up and saying, do you need a hand, or are you okay, is really important too. So mental health, you need to actually look after that, especially in this process.
Yeah.
And
it's a very costly process as well. It certainly costs you a lot, and I know that many people, when they're going through these AAT proceedings and wrongful ASQA decisions, it has cost marriages, it's cost homes and mortgages and cars and businesses and redundancies, and the impact is not just with the RTO, it's actually it affects multiple businesses all across industry, because you've got trainers who are no longer employed, you've got admin staff who are no longer employed, you've got a whole lot of businesses who are creditors, and other people who may not get paid because the business has got to close down, and the impact is far-reaching. And sometimes I wonder whether ASQA are really that short-sighted that they don't consider the impact. I know often when we're talking to cry cost providers, ASQA make these often knee-jerk decisions to issue sanction letters and cancellation letters, for example, and they don't necessarily consider the pipeline of students that are coming from overseas and whose visas are in the process of being granted, and what it's actually cost them just to get to that point. And for ASQA to close them down before they've even arrived in the country, when they're partway through that visa process, and then trying to find another provider, it's just enormous, the overall impact that an ASQA decision can have, not just on the life of one person, but many, many people are affected. And when those decisions are unlawful and or wrongful in a multitude of ways, and the process is not conducted in a procedurally fair manner, which is what you are expected to receive under the NVR Act, it really creates this system of inequity and wrongfulness, and a whole group of what we are now starting to call ASQA victims. And so as a united vet reform group, we're actually coming together now and saying enough is enough. It is really time that the Australian public knew what was actually going on with Australia's vet sector, because you won't hear this from the media, you won't hear it from ministers, you won't hear it from government, because they're investing millions and millions of dollars worth of funding into a national vet regulator who is incompetent and needs to be accountable for all of the funds. Now, what many people don't realise is that next year, ASQA is supposed to be a total full cost recovery organisation, regulator. And what we're seeing at the moment is that they can't even regulate properly where they're already engaging in a full cost recovery exercise by undertaking compliance monitoring audits with obscene charges and conducting them with multiple people, as we heard before, four students, 2 auditors, $6,000 for one audit and then another $1,000. It's not even financially viable for an RTO to pay for such an audit. And here we are going to full cost recovery. Now, don't forget as well that Senator Cash, I think it was on it was late October. I think it may have been the 23rd of October or somewhere around there. It was definitely late October. She announced another $18 million worth of funding to ASQA to enable them to produce a more educative approach and facilitate the Joyce review recommendations. And to me, that's just absurd. You have a regulator who is clearly not functioning in accordance with their legislated requirements, and they're being provided more and more funding constantly without ever being held accountable for that. There's got to be some change made, and it's only when we hear stories like this and the Australian public gets to hear the real side of the story that change can actually happen. So I know for me personally, I would really be grateful if people could start looking at the petition and signing it. We need this investigation into ASQA's regulatory practices. We also definitely have had enough, and so if the entire industry can start getting together and start signing off enough is enough on all of your posts, let's be heard as an industry, let's make a change, and let's save the vocational education training industry in Australia for our future generations. It's important. Joanne, have you got anything else to say, to add?
No, just sign the petition, and if anyone ever needs to talk, there's lots of people out there that can actually help. So don't be a stranger.
Joanne, thank you so much for your time and your courage in coming forward and talking to us. I know that you've really put yourself on the line by putting your face out there and your name and your journey, and we cannot be more grateful to you. I don't think there's any amount that we could ever repay you for your honesty and your courage and your transparency. Thank you again. I say that on behalf of everyone in the VET Reform Group, and let's all band together and unite and agree that enough is enough. Thank you so much, everybody, and we'll hear from someone else soon in relation to their story and why ASQA needs to be investigated. Bye for now.
Bye.